Hello and welcome to AfriDominion. I am Freeman Singh-Kabo, and thank you so much for tuning into our program today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us live for the very first time, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join our presentation today. We hope that you do enjoy it, and please be sure to provide some feedback if you would, especially those of you joining us live from social media. If you're listening to us via radio station or watching us from the television, we also welcome you to jump on our website, on our social medias, and leave feedback or give us a call and let us know what we can do to further improve or further provide better quality programming. With that in mind, I also want to give you a shout out to those of you guys joining us straight from the war zone, because today is one of those days where we're giving a shout out to those of you who are in war zone, especially brothers and sisters in Africa, in various countries within Africa who are going through a crazy time of your lives because of these never-ending wars. Most of you guys have been really sending us love, sending us a shout out that you do appreciate us checking in with you guys, and we are forever going to be doing that until we can take care of ourselves. And with that in mind, if you are amongst those of you guys who have been looking to get in touch with us, especially here at our studio, I want to give you a huge shout out, but also tell you the quickest way to get in touch with us. Go through our social media accounts like X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere you can find us on either public or private social medias, we're there. But you can also jump on to our website. Our website is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. Main email is info@afridominion.com. So I want to give you guys a huge welcome. Those of you guys following our program on the English side, and but we also want to say that today, especially this week, guys, there's so much violence going on in Africa, so much violence going against our brothers and sisters, so much violence against our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, our grandmothers. There's just so much violence in general. And then the worst part of it, so much violence going against our children, or the children of Africa. And that brings me down to the topic or the conversation that we get ready to have right now. It pertains to the children of Africa. And the topic of today that I want to discuss with you, it is one of those topic that really makes me cry, guys. Because when I think about it, I'm perplexed as to what must we do, especially the African community. Whether you're in the motherland or outside of the motherland, this is something that is a dire situation that all of us we have to have a part in. And so, what I want to talk to you about is: there a future for children of Africa who are caught up in the middle of war, conflicts, and violence of extreme? Is there such a thing as a future? That's what I want to talk to you guys about right now. And I want to break the ice, letting you guys know that Africa is one of those heavy-heated continent that continuously goes through wars, never-ending wars. And we all know, if you only only live by wars, what kind of future can you expect from yourself? If you're constantly in wars, if you have nothing else to do, if you have no other ideas in your head except imagining wars, what to do, how you're gonna survive tomorrow, whether you're gonna be safe in the next 1 hour, in the next minute. If you're constantly thinking about that, what kind of future can you expect as an adult, let alone a child? A child who has yet to develop, a child who just arrived to this world, and all they see is never-ending wars. So that itself, it's one of the things that's just driving me bonkers. It's driving me bonkers because while some of us we may be far away from these wars, we've been into these wars. The majority of us adults right now are product of these wars. A good portion of your life have been spent through warfares. And with that in mind, today, I just want to be the voice of our children, the children of Africa, the voiceless children of Africa. These children, they have literally nobody speaking on their behalf because the adult is busy fighting another adult. The adult is busy trying to stay alive. And consequently, these children are also forced to fend for themselves. They're forced to become adults overnight. We have to overmature. We have to overmature overnight when we were never supposed to be. So I took the liberty to collect some data, which I would love to share with you guys. But to drive the conversation at home, I want to start off with a question, and that question is, what kind of a future? What kind of a future can you expect from any child, let alone an African child, if that child is constantly exposed to wars? What kind of future can you expect? So they say that between 30 to 40% of the global populations are children, according to the United Nations, anyway. And in Africa, I think it's something like 40 something percent. I have written down the numbers. I will get through them in just a little bit. What kind of a future can you imagine African people are going to have if the children of today and tomorrow are not productive, if they are only exposed through wars, through diseases, through hunger, through just calamities as they're growing up? What kind of future can you expect? This is like a straight out setup for failure. And so, with that in mind, I want to show you guys something which which is so it literally was bugging my mind when I was thinking that when I was looking at it. Guys, I'm gonna need you guys to sync the screen that I'm looking at so that um, our audience can look at the same thing as well. There are few main things that I want to really talk about as far as African children: displacement, education, violence, diseases, and then health. You'll be so shocked, guys. You'll be so shocked. According to the United Nations, um, over 40 million children in Africa, over 40 million children in Africa are literally displaced. In other words, they do not have a life. 40 million children right now. They like either they in camps, they are outside just trying to fend for themselves. Over 40 million. That's a lot of children. That is a lot of children. Over 50 million children. They just out of school completely. Over 50 million children are completely out of school. Over 30,000, over 30,000 violation, violence against children. Over 30 incidents, over 30,000 incidents. Imagine a child who's susceptible to violences, and it's not going down, it's going up by the minute, by the hour, by the day, because of these never ending wars. Not only you have to deal with that, mixing with diseases. Anytime you have displacement of people, there is hygienic problems. Diseases are inevitable. So you got these diseases coming through, and then to slam dunk everything, you've got malnutrition. If you don't have any food, if you've been displaced, or you're constantly being displaced, you definitely won't be able to have access to food. Consequently, they absolutely going to be malnutrition among these children. So, my people, African people, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with this? It is so hard for me to wonder what can we do? What are we going to do about this? I know that these numbers are scary. They're very scary. And scary numbers like this are usually alarming so that at least those of us who may not be aware of it, we can wake up and realize that, hey, this is our, this is our lives. We only got one life to live on planet Earth. And so are our children. And if we are not uh, making provisions for children, a secure life for our children today and tomorrow, you can expect no Africa tomorrow. There won't be any future for African children. Think about the children who were exposed to constant warfares in the 90s. From the 90s up until 2020 plus, you have what, 30 something years. So a child who's at least 30 years old, who's been exposed to wars, that child is kind of screw up. Literally, that child is kind of screwed up. Um, and it makes me sad because there's no way you can talk about a future when the future is uncertain, when the future has no sort of like when there's no blueprint, when you can't even discuss about future, period. Such is the story of many families, many African families today, especially children. So I want to just dive into that momentarily, so that we can have a little bit more of meat on this conversation, because I just feel so bad. I feel so terrible that we are busy. We are busy talking about lives here and lives there, while the most important pillars of African lives tomorrow are being disenfranchised, are being overlooked, are not even important in the picture. And these are children of Africa. So allow me, guys, allow me just a second, just a second. Someone is really disturbing my attention right now. I don't know what they want, but let me get rid of them right quick. Guys, by the way, you are more than welcome, but just give me a chance to share with you. Give me a chance to share with you, just a bit, what I have in what I have in my heart, and then from there we can we can take it away, if that's okay. If that's okay with you guys. Yeah. So give me just a second, guys. Give me just a second. I know you all want to have a conversation, but just give me a second here. Give me a second. Okay. I had to shut off the doors because someone was really disturbing the peace right now. So, guys, let me just give you the numbers. Let me give you the I want to share with you the numbers that we have here. This is a report. This is a collection of reports from the United Nations, from the Red Cross, from a lot of NGOs who have who are embedded in war zones, who are doing amazing work left and right, but also private, companies, private corporations who are doing business, of course, in war zone. In war zone, there is so much business to be done there. That those who do business, they do business. Those who fight, they fight. And then the children who are caught up in the middle of it, they just die or become displaced, which is what I really want to talk to you guys about right now. So let's go, guys. Please give me the other screen, please, so I can read properly. Okay. So as I was telling you, the situation in Africa right now, you have over 40 million children across Africa who are either refugees or who are fleeing or who are just in some sort of situation. That's that's literally killing them right now. And these children are just the victims of wars. And because of because of what they're going through right now, um, only the benevolent, only those who care enough can see these children and actually help them up, and help them out for for what is happening. And I want to submit to you guys, why can that be you and I? Why is it that it can be us who's going to say no to these wars? Let us not chicken up. Remember, these are our homes, these are our communities, these are our neighborhoods. If we turn a blind eye, inevitable, 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 something is going to happen, either in your respective homes, in our communities, and communities at large. Africa right now is susceptible to every heinous act because most of these homes are not protected. Africa has become like a guinea pigs of warfare. If you have a latest gadgetry and weapon, you bring it in Africa and you utilize it against African people. Weapons of biological weapons. Africa is being tested on, Africa as a people. Africans are being tested on these biological weapons. And these biological weapons, some of it are diseases that we've never heard of before. Recently, if you have heard, they've been saying that there is a mysterious disease in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. A mysterious disease. How do you explain a mysterious disease? That's because it's a disease that either is being tested on our brothers and sisters, and very soon they will be like, where we have found out this is the disease and blah, 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 blah. Why is it only that Africa tends to literally attract all kinds of crazy things, diseases, wars, violence, extremisms, only in Africa? That doesn't make any sense, guys. But we know where that comes from. If you literally, they always say, follow the money, follow the source and see what is happening. And because of that, it's important that we literally start paying attention here. So if we can go straight to the displacement, so you can see some of these staggering numbers. So according to the African Center, again, 40 million people have been displaced. Now, out of these 40 million, minimum of 40 million, this is a minimum of 40. You have just in Sudan, 10 million. Guys, imagine 10 million people in just as a displaced population, only 10 million. There are countries that don't even have that kind of population, which means these people have left their homes, their livelihood, everything that they knew, everything that was meaningful in their lives. Imagine yourself, if you had a place to live in, if you had a bed to sleep in, if you had a shower, if you had the very basic needs. But because of these crazy wars, you are forced to move out of your own place, and you are being sent to live in this little shelter, in this little shitting. It's like those little camp, these little camp shittings. From a house to a camper, and a camper that has literally no space, where you don't have basic amenities, where you cannot have any food, where you cannot go to a toilet, that you gotta do it the man cave style. This is crazy, guys. Only in Africa. Only in Africa these things are happening. Now, you know what's been happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, also known as DRC. Uh, right now, they're talking about at least 7 million children displaced in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At least 7 million children displaced. Guys, imagine if these children are literally being kept from enjoying, from having the life, from growing up normally. 10, 20, 30 years, there is going to be a vacuum of leaders of tomorrow, because these children are being neglected. These children are being exposed to these never-ending wars. What are we gonna do about these guys? We cannot be bystanders and just let it be. Now, here's another kicker. So, according to UNICEF, there is at least minimum of 47 million, children who are misplaced. And can you imagine? Can you guess how many out of these 40 plus millions are in Africa? How many? Over 40. Over 40 millions are Africans. In another, the whole entire global displacement statistics of children, out of 47, 40 are in Africa, which means Africa is literally in a mess. Africa is in chaos. The children of Africa are, they literally, there's almost like a systematic way of keeping them in a displacement, a systematic way of keeping, of just uprooting their lives. There's no way that the entire continent of Africa absorbs all the displacement of children. I mean, it's happening according to the numbers, but it's mind-boggling. The whole entire globe is 47 million, and then just in Africa, 40 of them. 40 children out of 47 plus million of children are displaced within Africa. And out of that, just recently with the war in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 500,000 of those children, 500,000, are in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This is crazy. This is literally crazy by any stretch that you can put it. And when I see this, when I watch this, it just makes me feel upset. It literally upsets me. But now, remember, we just talked about there are many situation parameters. So the displacement, Africans. Second, education. Guys, children are no longer going to school. Why? Because there's so many wars. Again, according to UNICEF, they are telling us that over 50 million children are literally out of school right now. Over 50 million. Now imagine if your child is not going to school, and the only best thing to a classroom or close to a school the child can get is just hanging around in the refugee camp, or hanging around in the so-called a safe zone, and that's the only thing the child does, day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. What kind of a future can you expect out of that child? What's going to become of these children when they start becoming adults? It's like they're being set up for failure up front, systematically. Now, check this out. 50 millions are in Africa. We're talking about children. 19 of them are in Sudan. 19 million in Sudan. They said 13 in Nigeria. I was actually shocked to find out that in Nigeria, you have such a staggering number of children literally out of school. 13 million. Sudan, 19 million. Nigeria, 13. Now, also, it would be a remiss if some of the reasons why these children are, they have been giving reasons like bombs. They constantly having some of these insurgencies, bombs. They have some diseases that sometimes are causing children from not going to school. Displaced children are in shelters, and consequently, they cannot have access to school. Man, it is crazy. It is just crazy. So if there is no education set up for these children, you can best believe they cannot be able to compete with the rest of the world. I mean, with the rest of the world. Literally, if your child doesn't go to school and you do not take the time to educate that child at your own home, you're already setting up that child for failure. Like that's just a given. And if as a parent, that's what's happening right now, what kind of a future can you expect out of your child? There won't be any future for that child. Now, violence also was another kicker. Guys, seriously speaking, man, uh, I know violence is one of the tools that's utilized all over the world, not just to kill people, to intimidate, but to alter somebody's life permanently. Now, with the violence, there is some extreme violences, things like rape and violence against women and children and girls. Oh my goodness, guys! Our sisters, our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties, they literally have been targeted. They have been targeted. They are being targeted systematically. The rapes in 2023, 2024, the numbers are staggering. They have been going up from 30,000 and above. Jesus Christ. Now you wonder, like, okay, how is it that these rapes are not curtailed? How, like, you have United Nations, you got government security personnel or soldiers, yet these rapes, they just keep on going up, they keep on rising. And most of it is being attributed to many warring groups in within Africa, especially in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They talk about 250 plus warring groups. They're killing people, they're raping children, they're raping mothers, they're raping elderlies. They just committing all kinds of atrocities against the people. All along, the United Nations is there, watching and observing. What is it that they're doing there? If you cannot let go of your child to go and fetch some water, if you cannot trust that your child will come back safely, and that's just the norm that you have allowed to be set up in your neighborhood, what kind of parent are you? Guys, if we don't have we don't have to live in these conditions if we press on, and if we put our foot down and say no, we refusing this. These situations are happening because we have allowed them to be. We have allowed them to be, to exist in our neighborhood. Um, they constantly talking about the spike in rapes and violence against women, mothers and women, grown women and young little girls. But something really it gutted me. In Haiti, guys, in Haiti, they say that this past year, 2024, they had 1,000%, 1,000%, 1,000% of, oh my God, of rapes and sexual violence against women. 1,000% in Haiti. Haiti is just a little country. How is it that you're raping our sisters? How is it that you're raping our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties? And these are the same people who are raping the same family members, the same people in the neighborhood, just because they feel like they can. I couldn't take these guys. This is crazy. It's like I can't imagine this happening like that. But it's happening, unfortunately. Of course, we're talking about also there's a poor health. These children have no access to medical, have no access to food. Just like I was saying, if there is no, if you are being displaced, if you're constantly moving from one place to another, it is going to be very difficult for you to have access to a doctor. someone who can actually examine you, especially if you feel like something is wrong in the middle of fleeing or war zones. The last thing you're gonna be thinking about is a doctor, especially if you feel like you can walk on it. If you can walk on it, you are going to most likely ignore anything related to the doctor. And of course, there will be no access to food. In a war zone, you are not as free to do as you please. And evidently so, because that food is being controlled by the very few. So malnourishment, you know, it becomes like a norm for children. Malnutrition, that those numbers rises up. Children who cannot find food to eat, nursing babies who cannot find breast milk out of their mother's breast, and of course they don't have any alternatives. These children, they grow up malnourished in Africa, and Africa can feed the entire world. Now my question become exactly, what future do you see African children in the middle of constant wars, conflict, and violence of extreme? What kind of future can you see these children living? To be frank, I personally don't see a future for these children. It is hard to see a future for these children when you understand the circumstances around their livelihood. It is very difficult, and I feel so sorry because uh, we are barely doing anything about it. Remember, there is going to be a gap. They say that Africa has the greatest generation of young people today. If the majority of these children have no access to school, have no access to better quality of life, what do you think is going to be happening 10 years, 20 years from now? They won't have any future. They won't be able to compete globally with the rest of with the rest of the world. And therefore, systematically, they are going to be disenfranchised. And we can say no today against all of that. We literally can say no today. But it has to be a collaborative effort to all communities. We just cannot allow we it is my humble opinion that we should never and we should not allow uh, this situation to continue as is. It doesn't help anybody, especially Africans. It does not help any one of us. It doesn't help our families. It does not help. It does not help the communities. It definitely takes away from every single one of these families. And then on an individual basis, also, we are being left out. Is that what we want for our families? I will beg to differ. With all of that, I just have been thinking and wondering, like, what are we going to do? And so I have some question that I just want to leave with you guys, uh, because if we don't think about this right now and we mind our business, we let those who are fighting fight. We let those who are bickering bicker. We let those who are going through all kinds of like life changing moments. We If we just ignore it all, it is going to come back and bite every single one of us. I don't know if I did communicate with you guys, but currently there are at least 12 countries in Africa, 12 countries that are going through warfares. 12 out of 54, minimum of 12. And I also found out that there is a difference between a war, there's a difference between a conflict, and there's a difference between like mass atrocities and violences. All these metrics is that metrics is that this organization uses, like United Nations. In my opinion, they're there to confuse the people. If a nation hasn't seen stability in 20, 30, 40 years, why not just talk about it for what it is instead of sugarcoating it? So I think I may have forgotten to share that slide. If you guys can go back, so I can talk about the slide of these nations right quick. So okay, you can see that countries like Burkina Faso, we already know in Burkina Faso they have these issues of jihadist Islamic State is there, ISIS, terrorism and stuff. In Cameroon, they have wars. In Central African Republic, there is war. Of course, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, they have wars, never-ending wars. In Ethiopia, Ethiopia used to be one of the peaceful countries. Now they have wars. In Mali, they have wars, never-ending wars. In Mozambique, they have wars. In Niger, they have wars, jihadists and instability there. In Nigeria, they have these wars. In Somalia, I have known wars in Somalia since the 90s as a young person. In South Sudan and Sudan, since 2000s, there have been wars. Who's gaining in these so-called wars that we are going through as Africans? Certainly not the African families. Certainly not mom and pops, not gramps or grams. We're talking about other companies out there that are literally making money out of the lives, out of the death, out of the misfortune of African people. Are we really going to allow this to continue to take place? What do we gain if we sit and do nothing? I keep on telling you guys, we are being exterminated in a very sleek way as Africans. If it's not through wars, it's through diseases. If it's not through diseases, it's through some sort of like unsanctioned vaccinations. By the way, I usually get in trouble every time we talk about vaccinations. We usually get a backlash from big pharma. But there's so much documentation that shows that some of these vaccine, especially those that are being rushed through the population, through the African people specifically, instead of the entire globe, they're harming the population there. And unfortunately, when they make you sign a waiver stating that, whatever happens to you, it's none of their business, you will now sue them, such as what happened to COVID. Do you know that there are many countries where they made the people sign a waiver that anything that may arise out of the COVID vaccination, these big farmers are completely insulated. And I'm like, why would you, one, force everybody to take these vaccinations when you are not going to observe any consequences that comes out of any errors? If you're not going to take responsibility, at least give the people a chance to say, hey, you know what? Since I know it's gonna be on, I'm gonna be responsible for my own self. Don't force me to take this vaccine. Show me some study that show that literally show that these vaccines are safe. Now, also, I wanna be on the record. Now, all these vaccines have been found to be unsafe. Not all of them. But there are some that have been found to be unsafe to people. There are some that have been found to be unsafe. Yet they were, the people were forced to take them. And especially when they were mixing also. So if you're among those people who have been, who have already taken some of these vaccines and you mix them up, and later on they were like, oops. Later we all of a sudden finding out that there may be some side effect, there may be some consequences for you having taken this vaccine and in that vaccine there. Then who's gonna be who's gonna have you back when the consequences when the consequences arrive? And financially, you are unable to take care of yourself, you are unable to take care of your family, and the things that are most important to you. Who's going to come through for you when the ship goes down? Ship, not SHIT. So, guys, I really would like to submit to you that we have a responsibility towards our own lives, towards the lives of our families, towards the lives of our community, especially if you're a community leader, or those of you who are community leaders. You got to speak on behalf of your communities. You got to advocate. You got to study. You got to sanction these researches that have been proven to be good. And don't just give in to those who just want to make money. And unfortunately, our brothers and sisters in Africa, we are forever guinea pigs. We are forever slaves, modern slaves. And this is one of the things that infuriates me. In 2025, we are being literally treated as lab rats, as modern slaves where everything goes. Other people outside of Africa are calling the shots for the African people who are considered like slaves to just march for whatever steps, whatever, whatever commands are being given to them. We should never be allowing this to happen in 2025. And therefore, I am for anybody who's going to protect his or her family. I am for that. And I personally would also be a part of those who are going to protect our larger family as an African family. We are smart. We have the knowledge. Why not literally crisscross some of these vaccines if we must? Why not study some of these diseases? We are in the age of biological weapons. Biological weapons. We're talking about diseases, made-man diseases being unleashed towards the African population. Man-made diseases. Today, in 2025, we have those diseases. There's nobody's going to say that there is a mystery disease that's lingering a lot, around in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. A mystery disease. There was a time when Ebola was a mysterious, like a mystery disease as well. Outbreaks that we've never seen before. Mystery disease. So guys, be on the lookout, because unless you look out, you look out yourself. Unless you look out your family, nobody else is going to do that for you. Nobody else is going to do that for you. So I commend Burkina Faso, Niger, and in Mali, because right now they're setting up their own infrastructure, such that they can be able to actually study and understand everything that is happening as those three United States of Africa. That's how it starts. By the way, even though it's outside of the context, I am for United States of Africa. We have to unite as one. Because if we are united as one, and some of these decisions are made collectively, there are diseases that will never come through our brothers and sisters. Issues of hunger. Hunger will be a thing of a yesteryear. Diseases, hunger, health, that we can improve our own health without having to go and export food from China, without having to export food from the United States. For goodness sake, African can feed the whole entire world. Why would you run for GMO food, genetically modified food, when you can farm it yourself in your backyard? And of course, you've got policies from a lot of these, I call them house Negroes. These are Africans leaders who are literally speaking on behalf of these big industries, bringing in this genetically modified produce for the consumptions of Africans, instead of promoting healthy food. Now, when it comes to children, imagine a child who's used to genetically modified food. That child is not going to touch the food straight from the farm. Genetically modified food oftentimes has some sugar, has some of these unknown ingredients that are very tasty to your tongue, that the children will kill to have. There's a company that I don't want to have an advertising for, or I don't want to advertise, but here in the United States and European nations, when you're driving and you are with your children, you pass by, you smell when you pass by those these companies establishment, you smell how the food smells in it, and your children give you a hard time. Your children, they want to go there. They want to go there to eat. And guess what? If you're tired, if you've been working double, if you've got so much in your mind and you haven't cooked at home, you'll go by, drive through, grab something to eat for children, and be on your merry way. You arrive home, you do that 2, 3 times, 4 times in a week. The rest of those 3 days remaining, the children will not eat the food, the food that you cook. Why? Because the taste buds are being altered. So, what will be the future of African children if we just let it all go on by? If we just ignore all the signs, there won't be any Africa. There will not be any African family in the future if the children of Africa are ignored today. They're staggering statistics, guys. But unfortunately, the majority of us, we can care less because we don't think that these issues really they hit home. We don't think these are necessarily personal issues. We don't think that these are family issues or even community related issues. But there is an old proverb that says, when you see your neighbor's house being caught in fire, when you see the fire starting or there's a fire to to your neighbor, and you just watch like, oh, that's not my fire. They can take care of it. I have nothing to do with that. Eventually, that fire catches up on you, on your side of the house or on your property. And just like you were just you were just being a bystander, you may find yourself also in the same predicament. And you seek out help and you yell for help and nobody helps you. Why? Because of the way you're behaving, the way you chose to deal with the situation. Guys, let us quench the fire outside of all our neighbors. Let's quench these diseases. We can deal with malnutrition. We can deal with health concerns today. A lot of these diseases are caused by the lifestyles we have right now as Africans. If you're not eating right, if you're consuming a lot of GMO food instead of real food, of course your body is going to diminish its ability to fight off germs. But if you don't even have those kind of conversation in your household, if you're not even looking or even care whatsoever about these conversations, imagine a child who's watching what you're doing, who's following you by example. They'll never think about real food. They will never be healthy. Consequently, if they're not healthy, they are going to be susceptible to diseases. And when these diseases, comes on by, there will be no school to go to. And if they cannot go to school, they won't be able to compete globally. There will be dummies amongst the rest of the children. They won't be able to take advantage of the inheritance globally. They won't be able to manage to rule their own affairs within their own respective communities. Can we really afford to let that happen? That becomes what I'm going to leave you by, guys. And so I literally want to give you an invitation and tell you that we live in the most tumultuous times, whereas doing nothing is not an option on the table. We cannot be bystander and let everything and let our homes catch fire, and we just do nothing about it. We cannot be bystanders when our neighbors' homes are catching fires. We were never raised like that, guys. And therefore, it is important that we really become involved in other brothers and sisters' affairs, especially affairs that can quickly catch on fire to our own properties, catch on fire to our own lives. They are very similar. And the worst part of it, we can see symptoms, we can see signs of trouble coming. But the majority of you are ignoring these signs. And then the leaders are telling you, no, don't worry, these are false alarms. Why? Because they are not representing the people, they are representing those who wish us harm. So let us not be, let us just not be ignorant to the enemy. Don't be ignorant to what is happening. We are being targeted systematically, guys. And we cannot allow that to happen, even though it takes a lot of energy, even though it takes a lot of research, even though it takes a lot of, it takes a lot to prove, it takes a lot to demonstrate. Most people don't have time for that. But guess what? If you don't have time to save your own life, you're definitely going to be out of time of living your life. If you don't have time to scrutinize what is happening in your life, to scrutinize what is happening in your family life, to scrutinize what is happening in our community, and definitely to scrutinize what's happening with our leaders, we're going to be out of time eventually. And that's not something that I wish for any of you guys. So guys, that's my time for now. I'm being signaled that we have to go. But please, brothers and sisters, especially brothers and sisters in Burkina Faso, in Cameroon, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Central African Republic, and the Ethiopians, the Malians, the Mozambicans, those of you in Nigeria, those of you in Somalia, those of you in Sudan. By the way, guys, Sudan used to be one country until it was sliced into two countries, I think, in 2003. The regular Sudan and the South Sudan, all because of natural resources, oil. Side note, go in Google, go and research who's the biggest beneficial, who's the biggest beneficiary in South Sudan is natural resources. You'll get the clue. All right. So guys, that's it for me today. I brought to you guys a question wondering what kind of future are the children of Africa going to have, especially those those children who are hanging out in the war zone. What future are they going to have? What future can we shape for ourselves as Africans? And it's imperative, because if we don't do it for us, nobody else is going to do it. Could there be a future for children of Africa who are caught up in the middle of wars, conflicts, and a lot of this violence of extreme? I want to argue and I want to submit to you that there will never be a future. If they are in these conditions and they are continuously exposed in these conditions, I don't see anything else happening as far as a good life that will be happening for them or for their families and for tomorrow. So, guys, that's it for me. Let us say no to all these shenanigans and let us fight hard for our people. Because if we don't do it today, nobody else is going to do it. Thank you kindly, guys. I am your guy, Freeman Singirankabo, here at AfriDominion Studio. Want to wish you guys a beautiful evening. If you're going to bed, have a beautiful night. If you are waking up in the morning, have a beautiful morning. And if you are still on our time zone, enjoy your afternoon or early evening to some of you guys. Until I see you guys again tomorrow. Have a beautiful evening, guys, and peace.